And my dad trained Floyd Mayweather Sr., who in turn his son, Floyd Mayweather Jr., who was considered the best today.
The lights drift low in the old gym, the scent of sweat and leather thick in the air. A lone man sits on a battered stool in the corner, hands wrapped as if he just came off the pads. He pulls on his gloves slowly. Every crease, every worn patch tells a story. He breathes deep, exhaustion and memory mingling in that breath. This is Tony Tucker. 66 years etched into his face, his body, his soul. He clutches the silence for a moment, then lets words roll out, raw and unfiltered. Mike Tyson.
I was impetuous, my defense is impregnable, and I'm just ferocious. I want your heart, I want to eat his children. Praise be to Allah.
He looks across the empty ring. The echoes of Tyson's voice, louder than any punch, still reverberate in his ears. I didn't hate Tyson for being the best. I hated Tyson for being everything everyone wanted to be. His fists came at you like fury incarnate. You heard him before you saw him. I hated that fear in his walk, that arrogance in his stare. He had an equal parts darkness and brilliance that left no room for anything but reaction. We met in '88. He was ascending, devouring any heavyweights in his path. I remember watching him as a young man, full throttle, reckless, unrelenting. In the ring, he wasn't just fighting opponents, he was almost fighting expectations. He knocked them out, every last one. And I hated that ease with which he threw devastation. How he could end a story with a single punch. Because once you've faced that kind of power, you carry its memory like a scar. Evander Holyfield. He tightens the glove, loosening then retying the wrap, as though the act brings back old friction. Evander Holyfield. I hated him because he wasn't just strong. He was endlessly resilient. I hated that flatter of the rope, the stretched smile, the refusal to break. There was one fight, 89, maybe 90, whichever, when he took punch after punch, absorbing what would have felled others. And then, with the same pounding heart, he fired back. Holyfield was like granite, weathered, unyielding, but with that quiet intelligence behind the jab. He studied, he adapted, he came back. He had skill and pride in the same glove. I hated him for showing no fear of failure. Because fear, even in failure, at least leaves you human. George Foreman. The rope creaks as he shifts. Shadows dance under his brow. Foreman. Now there was somebody I respected and resented in equal measure. I hated him because he was chaos still. He was 2 times champion, then he walked away, then came back, with age, with weight, with something to prove. He carried his past with him like a beast. In his prime, he was terrifying. Then later, as an older man, he was a force reborn. Economical, measured, dangerous. He'd stare you down, sizing you up not with youthful bravado, but with patience. He'd plant his feet and dare you to come in. And when you did, boom. I hated that timing, that ability to make the ring his domain again when most had already hung up gloves. Riddick Bowe Tony leans forward, sweat beading at his hairline. He inhales, pauses. Riddick Bowe. It was personal when we crossed paths. Riddick wasn't just about boxing. He was pride. He was swagger. He was size with skill. I hated how he used his frame, how he danced in heavy boots yet thrown a punch like it was light-footed ballet. And the way he could eat leather and punch back just as hard, it irritated something deep inside. I remember him in '92 or '93. Before the titles, before the flash. And still there was this belief in him, in his shoulders, in the rub of his gloves. I hated him for making me measure myself against someone who seemed born to take the crown. Because when I looked at him, I saw what I might have been, and maybe what I let slip away. Lennox Lewis. He rolls his neck, hearing the crack beneath his fingers, remembering angles in that stretch of ring lights. Lennox Lewis, calm, calculated, harsh. He didn't have to shout. He didn't have to dance. His power was in restraint. I hated him for being analytical, for having patience like a predator. He'd see a weakness, exploit it slowly. He'd throw a punch not to hurt, but to dismantle. That reach, that jab, those tools, and that ability to adjust, to change stance, to make adjustments, minute but decisive. When we stepped into the ring, I felt the weight of his mind as much as his arms, because in him, strategy and strength were married, and I hated that harmony, because I always thought boxing was raw, visceral, but with him, he made it too precise, too inevitable. Mike Weaver. He breathes out, gloves now resting in his lap. The name comes softer, but it lands heavy. Mike Weaver. Not the biggest, not the loudest, but tough as old leather and brutal in ways that matter. I hated that he had been through fights people forgot, trials people dismissed. He'd been knocked around, written off, yet there was a darkness in him, something hungry, something unforgiving. I faced Weaver. I know pain. I know what it's like when your body screams but your pride tells you to stand. I hated how he made you respect every second in the ring with him, even when you thought you were winning. There was nothing glamorous with Weaver, just relentless muscle and stubborn will. I hated him because I admired him more than I wanted to. Reflection. Between. The ropes. Tony stands, the gym noises crawling around him. Skip ropes, the distant thump of a heavy bag. The ring bell echoing somewhere deep behind closed doors. Each one of them gave me more than a fight. They gave me edge. They showed me fear. They taught me about respect and doubt. I hated them because I had to, because hate sharpened me. It forced me to train in mistakes, to punch through nights when sleep was a luxury. Each hatred held a mirror, reflection of insecurity, of ambition, of what I thought I lacked. Maybe when I name them, I name parts of myself I was too proud to admit. Confronting the truth. He walks around the ring, hands resting on ropes, shadows flicker in his eyes. Now I'm 66. The gloves have long since left my hands. Time has bruised my bones in new ways. Pain doesn't always come from punches. But I look back, and I realize hate is heavy. It sticks. It doesn't let go unless you let it. Maybe I loved them more than I admit, because love and hate are siblings. I hated Tyson's power, but also hoped for that kind of dominance. I hated Holyfield's resilience, but wanted to be unbreakable. I hated Foreman's second wind, Bo's swagger, Lewis's mind, Weaver's grit. Each of them pulled something out of me. Each fight left me more myself, in ways I didn't expect. He lifts one glove, touching the rope, fingertips tracing memories. The breath he exhales is long. I'm Tony Tucker. 66 years I carried fists and pride and rivalry. 6 boxers I claimed to hate. But maybe in another way I just needed them. Their shadows shaped me. Every hook, every jab, every fall. If I hated them, I owed them. That unforgiving respect of adversaries. That's the tale. No regrets, no forgiveness needed. Just the echoes, 6 names, etched across the years I stood under lights. Chasing more than wins, I chased meaning. Let that stand.